Quick Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Options galore. That is right. The New England Patriots. What's their reward for a 4-13 record? It is springtime relevance. They run the draft. What are they going to do at number 3? What do they think of the quarterbacks? Are they going to trade down? Are they going to make some moves with another team? This is their high time. But the sad thing about the Patriots is after that, they revert to a level of irrelevance. They go back with the Commanders and the Jets and the Panthers. You know, it's like trading places. Remember that movie? They are Dan Aykroyd, and they don't want to be in the position they are in, okay? So they got to get in touch with the Dukes and figure out a way to get out of this. Meanwhile, as we look toward what the Patriots have heading in, we have 22 minutes of fun and extreme information coming. And Phil Perry, the Patriots trying to extract themselves, it's going to be a long haul.
It is, but I don't appreciate your tone. You're down there in sunny Florida for the owners' meetings. You're rubbing elbows with billionaires, and you're trying to bring me down here. I'm looking ahead to the draft. Hope, optimism, springtime. Tom, this is the time for positivity, and you're bringing me down. And again, I don't appreciate it, okay? So let's turn this thing around by the time we get to the end of this show.
Well, the best thing we could do then is plumb all the way through the top draft picks and the options. But here's the game plan, and this will be involved in this. First up, magnets wanted. The Patriots are looking for some guys who can be a draw, work the board. How the Patriots going to operate at the top? We're going to have plenty of Robert Kraft and Jerod Mayo reaction, and our friend Dianna Russini from The Athletic will join us at the end of the program. Meanwhile, it's time now for Quick Fire. It's brought to us by your New England Honda dealers. Hit it, Jerod Mayo.
If we take a quarterback at 3, that means we are convicted that this player is really the future of this organization. And going back to your point that we kind of said earlier, there are multiple pieces on this team as a whole that we want to fill those holes. And so if you can gather more picks, that definitely helps you out. We sit at a very enviable spot at number 3 where we could take someone at 3, or if someone offers a bag, as we would say, a lot of first-round picks, we definitely have to talk about those things as we continue to put together this team. You said it. There are holes on this team, but I would also say there will be people available going forward to fill those holes.
All right, Phil, momentum building for perhaps a move by the Patriots, or at least allowing for the possibility.
They'll allow for the possibility, which I know you would appreciate because you have been promoting this possibility and the future potential execution of a trade back where the Patriots could turn 1 pick into 2 or maybe even 3 first-round picks down the line. I'm not sure they've got it in them, though, Tom, to move off of a quarterback at number 3 overall when that's what everybody knows they need in order to go back and maybe get a receiver and an offensive lineman so you can get your quarterback down the line. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I talked to one NFC general manager who's acquainted well with the Patriots, and I asked him what the Patriots do. He goes, they got to take a quarterback, don't they? All right, speaking of quarterbacks, Drake May was in the crosshairs for Jerod Mayo, and here's what he had to say about the North Carolina quarterback.
Look, Drake May had a fantastic interview at the Combine. He brings a lot of energy. You can tell he has that leadership ability. And, also the exciting part about a guy like Drake May is the ceiling. Like, there is really no ceiling with a guy like that.
Oh, he's singing you a song, Phil. Ought to take Drake. Might be the easiest move on the board.
It might be if he's the best option there at 3. Say Caleb Williams goes off at 1, then Jaden Daniels at 2, Drake May at 3. For me, would be the play there. But Tom, in that same comment or soon thereafter, he also talked about Drake May's floor, and his floor might be lower than some others in this year's draft class. He also later in that same conversation talked about decision-making as being the first thing that he's looking for from a quarterback. And I'm not sure that'd be the first thing you would list about Drake May if you were describing him as a player. So I'm not sure they're all in on Drake May.
Yeah, that's something I wrote about today on NBC Sports Boston. There is a lot of information coming out from the Patriots in various ways, and the more information that comes out, the more you can see there's uncertainty about a lot of different things. Meanwhile, you mentioned Jaden Daniels. There are people who are starting to ticket somehow J.J. McCarthy or Drake May over Jaden Daniels. Here's what Mark Daniels tweeted about the plans for Daniels. When it comes time, he will be visited by Jerod Mayo and the Patriots contingent next week when they look at his pro day out at LSU. So Jaden Daniels obviously is a player that I felt would be going to the Commanders for a number of reasons. Mainly being, I thought he was the second best and most productive and electric quarterback. Phil, Jaden Daniels slippage?
I find it hard to believe that there will be much slippage there. I think the league loves this guy, Tom. In today's game, where it is so critical that you can create plays with your legs, especially on third down, to get your offense out of trouble, shoulder the entire load for an entire offense. That's what Jaden Daniels can do. Yes, he's a little slight. Yes, he's a little bit older than some of these other quarterbacking prospects. I think it's going to be really hard for the Commanders, who just signed Marcus Mariota to be the backup, by the way. That might be a hint at what kind of quarterback they're after. I find it hard to believe that Washington would pass on that guy.
All right, stick on the quarterbacks here. Robert Kraft spoke today, and boy, he's got a vested interest in what the Patriots do at number 3. Highly vested. Here's what he had to say about his leanings on whether or not his team should take a quarterback. He wouldn't be involved, of course.
You know, I guess as a fan, I put my fan hat on, and I definitely would. You know, in the end, you can't win in this league consistently unless you have a first-rate quarterback and a first-rate coach. On the other hand, you're in different position, and we've never been in the third draft position since we've owned the team. And what happens, a lot of people behind are really desperate to move up. And so we're going to be open to whatever can come our way. But in the end, I'll let the team make the decision what they think is best. One way or another, I'd like us to see us get a top-rate young quarterback.
All right, Phil, you know what I call that? That's called putting your thumb on the scale a little bit. Listen, you have a GM, a de facto GM, who's on an audition. And if the owner of the team who's going to make the decision on your ultimate fate is saying, boy, I sure do want a quarterback, it will take brass to move on from that. Speaking of brass, I don't know if you can hear the plates moving around down here. Be that as it may. Phil, won't it?
That was 3 brass items. I think you're probably talking about 2 there, Tom. Yes, it will. Of course it will, especially if you're Elliott Wolf and you're not guaranteed to have the general manager gig after the draft. Robert Kraft has made it clear they're going to be conducting interviews following the draft for front office positions, or at least the primary position there. So if you're in an audition, so to speak, and you're Elliott Wolf and you know this is what the owner wants, even though he says, I'm going to let people make their decisions and we're going to be open to whatever comes to us, you can't pass on a quarterback there, can you, Tom?
Can't pass on a quarterback unless you have brass to the third power. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we get you involved like we always do, and it is from the stands. Let's bring it in right now. I put out a poll today. Very simply, and Phil, I'm going to call on you to read the answers here because I'm going to look like a duck trying to read them off my laptop. But here's your poll. Who are you going to take at number 3 with all things being equal? I thought it might be Jaden Daniels, all things being equal. Drake May, 43%. And there is a contingent of people, a groundswell of support for trading down. More people than would want J.J. McCarthy at that spot. Phil, can I call on you to read through the comments, beginning with my guy, Andy A. Marks?
You sure can. Andy thinks like you do, Tom. He says trade the pick, build the team. We're actually going to have a mock draft tomorrow on NBCSportsBoston.com that does exactly that. You're going to love it, Tom. David Mack then says, why not Harrison at 3 and get a quarterback in round 2? I can think of a few reasons why. He's a great player, but you might want to go quarterback there first if you want one at all. Then this is Damador. Let's go with Damador. He says draft Joe Alt. Premium position. Looks like a great player. Hard to argue with that one, Tom, but if they don't want a quarterback at 3, then you've got to trade out, right? I don't know if taking a tackle or a receiver there makes that much sense.
Have to. The only reason I'm speaking about this is the bounty that you can get in a draft that has wide receivers and tackles to spare. Those are the spots you need. Those are the spots that have an absolute glut of players. So if you make the move, you are making it in a smart year to do so. All right, Phil, coming up after the break. Well, actually, coming up in your inbox, you have Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Much more on Robert Kraft's press conference this morning. You could scan the QR code on the screen, or you can find it on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube. Coming up after the break, we will get to the talk of magnets and whether or not the Patriots are a destination. They aren't. And how they can become one, we'll tell you.
Quick Slants is brought to you in part by Dr. Matthew Lopresti, the hair doctor of Tom Curran.
Growth potential. Brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lopresti. Look younger, feel younger, get your hair back with Leonard Hair Transplant Associates and feel it blow in the wind in Orlando, Florida. The Patriots have brought in a total of 9 players in free agency, including quarterback Jacoby Brissett, KJ Osborne, Austin Hooper, and Antonio Gibson. Meanwhile, you got guys like Jalen Hawkins, Austin Hooper, as we said, Chukwuma Okafor. But when you look at that list, nobody's jumping off you as a top-tier guy. Why? Well, the Patriots tried to get one in Calvin Ridley. They fanned. Jerod Mayo talked about one of the reasons why it's difficult for guys to sign on with New England currently.
You know, I would say there were various reasons why guys didn't sign with us. Once again, the unknown is scary for a lot of people. And I would say even in our building right now, it's still unknown. Like, will I be a good head coach? I don't know. Hopefully. I think I can be. Will Elliott be a good good GM or whatever he is in this role? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But, look, it's going to be a process. And one thing I would say as you go through the draft, you want to get guys that are magnets. You know, I played with the ultimate magnet in Tom Brady, where guys wanted to play for Tom, with Tom, and with the team. Right, and so it kind of gets skewed, and it's kind of now it's the other end of the spectrum. It's like what pieces do we have to attract those outside guys? And look, once again, if we draft a guy, you're coming here. So that has to be our philosophy as we continue to put this thing together.
You know, the Patriots are trying to attract people, but I think that they got a hard dose of reality during free agency. Mayo talked jokingly about burning some cash, but promised that the team would bring in talent 100%. And then Elliott Wolf said they would weaponize the offense. Well, you need to underpromise and overdeliver. And this week we've seen the Patriots try to extract themselves from the statements made about bringing players in because, well, in large part, it wasn't a great free agent class, and players were not really inclined to come here. So I think light has dawned on Marblehead a little bit that, wow, we are not a destination. In order to get those magnets, they have to figure that out. But again, Phil, this Patriots team, I think, is casting about for what its identity is going to be. And until they can articulate that themselves, it's going to be hard to articulate it to outside people. They don't know who they are yet, Phil.
They don't, but what might help them get to that point where they do understand their identity is drafting a quarterback. You don't force it, Tom. You only take the guy if you love the guy. But if Cincinnati can be a destination because of Joe Burrow, if Buffalo can be a destination because of Josh Allen, which both those cities have become in the last couple of years, then why can't Foxborough, Mass? You have to get the quarterback first, but if that guy's a magnet, that is one argument as to why you should go with quarterback at 3 overall. Might help you sign free agents down the line, even if they're reluctant to come here now. Questions at that quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I know that Calvin Ridley, for instance, did go elsewhere, but he will be a draw. Trevor Lawrence on a team that otherwise has not been a draw. So you look forward to the Patriots hopefully being able to address it either with guys, but they have to force them. So they have to draft guys, and then the free agents will come if they improve. Meanwhile, down here in Orlando, the NFL made a couple of really drastic rules changes to plumb through. First off, the owners made a move on the kickoff. Kickers will now line up at their own 35. No player can move, okay? They're going to kick that thing off. And the 2 The coverage team will line up 5 yards away from the receiving team. No player on the coverage team can move until the ball is contacted. There's a lot that goes into this rule that we're going to divine as we go forward. And also the hip drop tackle, Phil, has been implemented. There are 3 elements in the hip drop tackle that have to be executed. So as we look at these rules, Phil, first the kickoff rule, and it's not as complicated as it sounds, and it actually penalizes you if you don't return the ball. Takes out collisions. It's going to make that play more interesting, and I find it really a cool play, at least in concept. You?
I agree with you. I love that the kickoff will now be a play again, Tom. Outside of games that were played in real weather conditions where kickers weren't able to just kick it out of the end zone, you weren't seeing returns on a regular basis, week after week after week. It was a formality. And so now you're forcing the ball into a playmaker's hands. You're forcing coaches to get really creative, and I think they will. I think you could see some games really be turned on their heads because there are going to be looks that coaches haven't seen before, that players haven't seen before, that might lead to explosive plays, that will lead to points. And so I like this rule. I like that special teamers get to keep their jobs. Like there are a lot of good aspects to this, even if it's going to be a much different look than the kickoff people are used to.
All right, Phil. Meanwhile, I hate shattered tibias and broken ankles as much as the next guy. I understand why the NFL is trying to ban the hip drop, but to me, it's going to be very, very difficult to legislate in real time from field level because there's elements that have to exist in terms of a player freeing himself or unweighing himself, I think the verbiage is, by leaving the ground, swinging around the player he's trying to tackle, and then landing with force on the knee or below. So that's going to be really hard to legislate, and it's a 15-yard penalty. There had to be an easier way.
Yeah, and I like your idea that you mentioned on the Patriots Talk podcast today, which is why not make it a 5-yard penalty at least for the first year until they figure out what this looks like in real time, so the officials get more accustomed to officiating it. This isn't like the horse collar tackle where it's pretty clear. If the guy's hand is on the back of your neck and pulling down, that's a 15-yard penalty. We all understand what that is. This is a little bit more complicated. I think players, Tom, eventually will figure it out and learn to abide by it, but you could see some wonky calls early.
All right. Meanwhile, we threw out a quick poll for you guys. It's two-poll Tuesday. Do you approve of the new kickoff rule the NFL has implemented? Yes, I do. I love it. 60% of you, and then 4 of you say, no, it's stupid. I hate it. Phil, Sarah, should we do the comments? Should we unleash comments?
Let's do the comments. I got him, Tom. Brady Boy here. He says, at first I was opposed, but I think it was just hating change. Very reflective of you, Brady Boy. It's so boring right now just watching kickers blast the ball through the end zone and almost never get a return. I agree. Hoodie Hollywood says, ruined the most exciting play in all of sports. Maybe he's talking about the onside kick. There's not going to be any more surprise onside kicks, which I don't love. But Brian Pello, he checks in. He says, I only love it in terms of keeping it around. The way it was being described by special teams coaches is if they didn't come up with this, the kickoff was dead. So I'm happy they found a way to keep it in the game. I agree with Brian there.
It does take away the surprise onside kick. You can still run an onside kick, but you have to tell everybody you're about to do so. You can do it twice in the fourth quarter. All right, coming up at 6:30, Arbella's early edition with Trenny. Trenny Casey will be taking a deep dive into the biggest sports stories of the day. And coming up after the break, we'll bring in my friend Dianna Russini from The Athletic. She covers the NFL like no other, and she's going to give us the lowdown on what the Patriots are possibly doing at number 3, because she talks to teams they might be doing it with. Stay tuned.
Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Contact your local New England Honda dealer for a great deal today.
All right. The Patriots are in a position at the 3rd position in the draft where they are going to be fielding a lot of calls. You got teams like the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton, who said of Monty Austinfort, the guy sitting at 4, it's good to be Monty right now. Well, is it good to be Elliott Wolf? How many people will be calling the Patriots? And how attractive are the Patriots as a destination to free agents? Good intel on that from our friend Dianna Russini. Dianna? Hey, what's up, everybody? Look who I found. It's Dianna Russini from The Athletic. What's your role there?
I sit by the pool all day here at the owners' meetings, but when I'm actually working, I am the senior NFL insider. So it's basically my job to break as many stories as I can and do these deep dives on stories on teams that are having lots of success and sometimes some dysfunction, like the New York Jets.
Which actually brings us to another team who is sinking to a level of dysfunction that fans are not accustomed to, and that's the New England Patriots. Top 3 overall pick. You are talking to a lot of the NFL bigwigs who might be inclined to move. What are you hearing about number 3?
So I actually want to go back about a month ago, and I was having a conversation with the GM in the league, and he was saying to me that be ready for 4 quarterbacks to go with the top 4 picks. And I reported that, and people went crazy. Like, there's no way. And now here we are, late March. This is almost April, a few weeks out from the draft. And this is heating up again. This is starting up where it's becoming a reality that 4 quarterbacks could potentially go with those top 4 picks. So with that 3 pick, right? So the New England Patriots, open for business, obviously are going to look at all the different options that they have and take those phone calls to listen. Is there a team willing to give up a big haul in order to move up? And if that would be a good investment for the Patriots to say, you know what? Maybe we collect more picks.
Yes.
Maybe we collect more picks here and continue to build. There's a team down in Texas, the Houston Texans, who had that plan years ago where they started to build. They didn't just get good last year.
Right.
This wasn't like they drafted C.J. Stroud and became stars. The building started 2-3 years ago, which is why they're in the position that they're in now. So maybe this is an option. I'm not saying this is what they do, but I'm sure in the building, this is something they're discussing of, if we get the right price, should we do this?
Robert Kraft talked about Calvin wasn't really that interested in coming because the Patriots don't have a quarterback, and his girlfriend wasn't into coming to New England. But what's the general perception of the Patriots around the league from your sense?
And by the way, that quarterback problem during free agency came up not just with Calvin Ridley. Mike Evans is another example of a player that New England was interested in bringing in if perhaps Baker Mayfield was going to go there. But without Baker going there, Mike Evans did not even want to have a conversation, not knowing who the quarterback is going to be. I think the mindset around the league right now, or how they're viewing the New England Patriots, is really just a gigantic rebuild, trying to find just the simplicity of their identity. What are they? Who are they going to be? Is this going to be a Bill Belichick Jr. team? Is this just going to be an extension of that? Or is this actually really going to be a fresh new approach to how they do it, whether that means on the field, off the field, all of it. So I think there's just a lot of question marks, but I think there's also a lot of belief because ownership is so strong.
All right, great stuff from Dianna, and we've enjoyed our time down here. Actually, I just got this in my email from NFL Network. Hi, Tom. Wanted to reach out to let you know about coverage of UNC's Pro Day featuring Drake May, Thursday, March 28th on NFL Plus. So going to rerun that on the main channel at 8 a.m. on NFL Network, Saturday, March 30th, okay? So get all your eyeballs full of Drake May, just like Phil. Goodbye, everybody. See you in a minute.